Yo, Autumn here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I turned this box of Mark III Marines into a counter-SAS force for the new Dark Angels Combat Patrol. Recently, I did a 4-part series where I tried painting some Marines in different random colors. I really liked the results and wanted to expand on that and see which one I could turn into a full force. So I put it to a vote, and this little hazmat trooper won. And naturally, so did the loyalist vote. So I picked up the box of 20 Mark III Marines, but this Dark Angels box only has 18 miniatures. Well, sweet, that's 2 minis I can save for a project. 4 more random colors, maybe? Or VTuber crossovers? Who knows? First things first, since we're making a counter-SAS force, we need to figure out what we need. We need 10 intercessors armed with bolt rifles that we can split up into 2 squads of 5. We need 5 plasma-armed marines, 3 with sword and shield, and 1 with some form of big bulky gravis armor. We'll try and make up something later. Now, annoyingly, the bolters for it and bolter rifles have 2 different profiles. So we're gonna need to get a little creative. I've come up with 2 solutions for this, and I'll show you both. For the first solution, I'm gonna use these plastic cake tubes and make up some bulked silencers. They're cheap, plastic, they lean into the geared up, tactical look for these Marines. Simply cut them down to size and glue them on. They work with plastic glue, which is great. And hey look, re-drilled the barrels. Next, if you have them available, swap out the magazine for a beefier version. Here I'm using the leftovers from my Black Templars Combat Patrol, but any big magazine will do. Just cut one off, trim it down the area flat, before doing the same with the mag and gluing them together. Now add a scope, if you have one available. Same thing, cut, flat, trim, glue. The Primaris Intercessor kit has tons of these available, so if you have some left over as I do, go ahead. Or ask a friend, they might have them available. But you could also just use bolt rifles. Just cut them off, try to angle them in ways that make sense. Here I'm using more leftovers from the Black Templars Combat Patrol, and adding these extra plates of armors to bulk out the hands. It'll help me get that more heavily armored infantry look I'm going for. To add to that look for all of these, I'm using these 3D helmets that I had designed and 3D printed. I'm using the Tech Specialist for as many as I had, putting some of the other ones in here and there. Next, we have the Blade Guard veteran. At the time, I didn't have any storm shields, so I booted up Blender, and in a stream you can watch here, went through some concepts to make my own. I wanted to make them fit the hazmat, heavy industrial armor feel. I had this in mind for the project. I also really liked the look of the old boarding shields. So I was sure to include the piping and all the things that could look like the energy field emitters, with all the bolts to match the helmet design. For this, I kit bashed up these 3 blade guards, using various marine arms and power swords from the box. Even put in a few leftover Sigmar bits for the sergeant. If you like either of these STLs, they'll all be available for download free from the links in the description. Next, we have the Hellblaster plasma guns. Any kind of plasma gun will work for this. Wait. See, these also have a special profile. Time to get creative once more. Luckily, with the prototype model I made, I'd put in all of these extra cables to the plasma gun and a little back canister that they plug into. So we're just gonna do that here too. Again, I'll show you 2 methods to make this, and to attach these pipes to our Hellblasters. Firstly, if you have some leftover pipes, you can just line them up and cut them and glue them in the right angles, like I'm doing here with these leftover aggressor pipes. Secondly, if you don't have pipes to spare, or the ones you have don't quite match up, we can make our own, just using some super glue, a metal wire, and some green stuff. Bend it into the right shape, and glue it at both ends, and also anywhere else it contacts the model if you want it to be really secure. Now that we can secure these models, we can use modeling putty or green stuff to make the wire look beefy and like a cable. Here I'm using green stuff to sculpt the ridges and put texture on the cables. While we've got our sculpting tools out, we can make the tactical rigs or harnesses. Here it's pretty simple. We get the screen stuff into small strips and then connect them to the pouches. I go over the shoulders and make it look like they connect to the belts on the hips. We can make simple squares and shapes look like clips, loops, and the little adjusters. The belt clip is also very simple. We make a square, and then we just push down some grooves into the sides. Finally, with all of these techniques together, I made the big Gravis Captain. Now I had a spare torso from the Aggressor's kit lying around, but that didn't have any legs or a back, so I had to get a little creative. I used the Mark III legs and a fair amount of green stuff to bulk them out and fill the gaps. I used the spare Terminator back, with the backpack a friend had given me from some Devastators. For this model's loadout, they have a chainsword and a bolt storm gauntlet. For the first, I made a combo of the Aggressor's leftover bits and some spare power fist. The chainsword was taken from the new Sentinel kit, as its combat patrol doesn't need it. Lastly, I made a comically big ammo belt using the same wire and green stuff trick. Quick basing, PVA/white glue or Mod Podge, and one thick coat, and then just add some sand. Tap away the excess and leave it to dry. Then come back when it's dry and add another layer, this time a lot more thinned down. Now on to priming, and I did a really bad job here. I was trying to paint these yellow as a base to save time, but realized last minute that it wasn't just me failing to use a spray can correctly, although there was a little bit of that, but the can had a cracked nozzle, causing it to come out in big splotches. Tried to salvage it with some white primer and turn it into a strange zenithal, and it kind of worked. Let's power on through though. For the yellow, as a base coat, I used Imperial Fist Contrast. Here I can be a bit sloppy, as I'll be fixing it up later. With the base coat mostly done, I powered over to the Toxic Green. The green we want even brighter, so for this I put an underlayer of white to prepare. Next, I mixed in some of Vallejo's fluorescent green and striking Scorpion green. For the black, I used Black Templars as a base coat. Here I'm going over the trims and being a little careful not to go over too much of that yellow I just put down. Now the tactical rig, I mixed up some Rakath flesh with some Goblin green. No, not that one, the game color one. Then, with the khaki, I applied it to all the pouches, pipes, cloths, and straps. Metal was pretty easy. I was just quick, some lead belcher on all of the remaining metal parts, the gun barrels, belt clips. And if you want to now, you can paint all the little studs. I do that with a few of them, but honestly, it doesn't make too much of a difference, so I skipped it for a lot of them. Time to clean up and highlight the yellow. For a shade, we'll be using Averland Sunset and painting all of the lower parts of the armor panels. At this point, it's my chance to go slow and clean up all the bits I messed up with the black trim. Then I did the highlights with Flash Gets Yellow. Took my time to clean the upper areas. Then a general cleanup step where I went back over everything and tidied up before basing. Basing is super easy. It's just a very thin coat of Vallejo's flat brown across everything. And then some texture mud from AK Interactive. Lastly, a layer of PVA, and then some tufts and yellow moss flocking. And then after giving everything a black rim, I have my combat patrol ready to... Oh, wait. I forgot the hazard markings. So, you freehand some markings. Starting with a black. And after doing this 10 times badly, I figured out that if you do these little crosses first, it's much nicer to fill in the triangles. And I put a central white dot and paint over with the mixed green. Finally, a full combat patrol in the randomized style. I realize now that it was just the highest voted and the lowest viewed. Oh well, too late now. Next time, something a bit smaller, before I tackle another big project.